breaking news off the front page this morning as we bring you the Wells Report front page. It is unfortunately sad news. Tony Bennett, a singer whose melodic clarity, jazz-influenced phrasing, audience-embracing persona, and warm, deceptively simple interpretations of the Great American Songbook helped spread the American Songbook around the world and won him generations of fans. He died today in New York City. The news was given to us by Sylvia Weiner. She announced his death. In February of 2021, his wife, Susan Bennett, told AARP magazine that Mr. Bennett had learned he had Alzheimer's disease in 2016. He continued to perform, record, despite his illness. His last public performance was in August of 2021 when he appeared with Lady Gaga at Radio City Music Hall in a show titled, appropriately, One Last Time. Mr. Bennett's 70-year career was remarkable not only for its longevity, but also for its consistency in hundreds of concerts and club dates and more than 150 recordings. He devoted himself to preserving the classic American popular song as written by Cole Porter, the Gershwins, Duke Ellington, Rodgers and Hammerstein, and others. Tony Bennett, dead at age 96. Also breaking news this morning, we have learned that Judge Eileen Cannon, who will oversee the Trump documents case, has set a trial date for May. Federal Judge Eileen Cannon in Florida has pushed to May 2024 the prospective date of former President Donald Trump's criminal trial over his handling of classified documents after he left office, ensuring that proceedings play out well into the election cycle. In an order today, Judge Cannon, a Trump appointee who was overseeing the case, rejected Trump's efforts to delay the trial until after the 2024 presidential campaign, in which he is the Republican frontrunner. But she also stopped short of setting the trial date in December, as the Justice Department had requested, writing, quote, "The government's proposed schedule is atypically accelerated and inconsistent with ensuring a fair trial," unquote. Elsewhere in national news, Fox is reporting that Republicans immediately began lashing out at President Biden yesterday following the release of an unclassified FBI document detailing his alleged involvement in an international bribery scheme, with a number rallying for his impeachment. Senator Chuck Grassley, the Republican from Iowa, released the FD 1023 form earlier in the day, which detailed how Biden, along with his son Hunter, allegedly coerced Burisma CEO Mykola Zlochevsky to pay them millions of dollars in exchange for help in getting the Ukrainian prosecutor investigating the company, Burisma, fired. Quote, "Most corrupt family to ever live in the White House, impeach," unquote, said Representative Jim Banks, the Republican from Indiana. He wrote on Twitter, while Republican Lauren Boebert of Colorado said this, quote, "Read and understand just how deep the corruption goes. Biden should be thrown out of office. Impeach," unquote. Former Arizona gubernatorial candidate and conservative firebrand Kari Lake suggested the president was guilty of extortion and treason, in addition to bribery, and claimed former President Donald Trump was impeached for Biden's crime. And then there's this. Quote, "Is this why Biden has America involved in the war in Ukraine? Joe Biden is a criminal and is compromised. And he's leading us into World War III because Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has proof of more Biden crimes." This from Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene. We'll be following this story later on in the Wells Report. Please stay tuned. Speaking of this particular article, there is a very credible op-ed in Fox News. Andrew McCarthy is a senior fellow at the National Review Institute. He also served as an assistant U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York. In his op-ed, he talks about the Oversight Committee Democrats in yesterday's hearing running into a buzzsaw. Two IRS whistleblower agents, Gary Shapley, the supervisor on the investigation who went public a few weeks ago, and Joseph Ziegler, the lead investigator in the case, who was publicly identified for the first time at the hearing. When committee Democrats tried to poke holes in the testimony, they ended up on the receiving end of what they had not bargained for, a fusillade of fact, damning data about the millions raked in by the president's son and family members from apparatchiks of corrupt and anti-American regimes, writes Mr. McCarthy. He goes on to say, in gory detail, the agents outlined how President Biden's Justice Department quashed the Biden corruption investigation from within, while publicly pretending that it was being conducted with independence and integrity. Biden's attorney general did not appoint a special counsel because he made protecting his boss, the president, his highest priority. That is why the case the whistleblower so compellingly described at the hearing was sabotaged. The culprit is not U.S. Attorney Weiss. It is Attorney General Merrick Garland. Speaking of this story from a media standpoint, the media bias has precluded reporting on whistleblowers, the FD23 form, 1023 form. This is an observation from both USA Today and CNN on my part. USA Today's top headline today, quote, another federal indictment threatens to engulf Donald Trump and his presidential campaign, unquote. CNN's top headline, quote, Russia's war in Ukraine, unquote. There was no mention of either the damaging testimony of two IRS whistleblowers, backed up by an unnamed FBI investigator, or the FBI 1023 form released by Senator Chuck Grassley, the Republican from Iowa. Elsewhere on Capitol Hill, RFK Jr. upended progressives during censorship hearing. This is from the Hill. A House hearing yesterday featured Democrat presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr., bringing the complicated debate about balancing free speech with fighting misinformation to center stage. Some of the debate played out in real time among members of Congress and the hearing witness. The House Judiciary Select Committee on the Weaponization of the Federal Government hearing on censorship started with some early demonstrations of the partisan divide on the issue. Representative Deborah Wasserman Schultz made a motion to move the committee into executive session, thus closing the hearing to the public over concerns about Kennedy's recent statement on COVID-19. She argued the testimony from Kennedy, who said in a video published by the New York Post that the COVID-19 virus was targeted to spare Jewish and Chinese people, could defame or degrade people. Republicans successfully blocked that motion. ABC News reports that RFK Jr. defended past statements during the censorship hearing. He denied that he is racist and or anti-Semitic, following comments that leaked over the weekend where he said COVID-19 was targeted to certain ethnicities. Kennedy told the committee that he had never uttered a phrase that was either racist or anti-Semitic, and despite repeatedly spreading conspiracy theories and misinformation on public health issues in the past, he insisted he was not anti-vaccination. You need to know that that's ABC News, the statement where they say conspiracy theories and misinformation on public health issues in the past is a biased statement. That is not journalism. That is propaganda. And what we are dedicated to is to depropagandize the news. RFK Jr. continued, I'm subject to this new form of censorship, which is called targeted propaganda, where people apply pejoratives like anti-vax. I have never been anti-vaccine, but everybody in this room probably believes I have been because that's the prevailing narrative. Another Democrat has left the Democrat Party. A prominent Democrat and Jewish leader who served for decades as a New York lawmaker and now leads a group committed to fighting anti-Semitism, announced yesterday he's leaving the lifelong party obligation and becoming a Republican, arguing the Democrats have become radicalized and have turned their back on the Jewish people. I've been a lifelong Democrat, he said, my family, my parents, but that's over. That's finished. I've decided to register as a Republican. Unfortunately, the Democrat Party has become so radicalized. The people who are moderates or conservative Democrats are not welcomed in the Democrat Party, and I have had enough. In state news this morning out of New York City Mayor Eric Adams said the city has no more room for migrants. Our cup has basically runneth over after it welcomed approximately 90,000 migrants since April of 2022. We started several months ago and we have reached our full capacity, and that full capacity was verbalized. And now New York is just going to be visually actualized. We're going to see how much of our cup has basically runneth over. We have no more room in the city. We need help, said Adams in a press conference. The mayor, a Democrat, shifted responsibility to the federal and state governments for not providing enough aid for the city to offer housing and other social services for the thousands of new arrivals. We cannot continue to absorb tens of thousands of newcomers on our own without the help of state and federal government. Adams admitted that offering temporary shelter, placing migrants in hotels, school gymnasiums, is not sustainable, saying that it is wrong. that the Big Apple is carrying the weight of the ongoing migrant crisis. In California, Democrat California Governor Gavin Newsom followed through on his threats to fine Temecula Valley Unified School District, who rejected state-endorsed textbooks that mentioned gay rights activist Harvey Milk. The three political activists on the school board have yet again proven that they are more interested in breaking the law than doing their jobs of educating students, so the state will do that job for them, Newsom said earlier this week. California will ensure that students in Temecula begin the school year with access to materials reviewed by parents and recommended by teachers across the district. After we deliver the textbooks into the hands of students and their parents, the state will deliver the bill for those textbooks along with a $1.5 million fine to the school board for its decision to willfully violate the law, subvert the will of parents, and force children to use an out-of-print textbook from 17 years ago. In a statement sent to Fox News, Dr. Joseph Komrosky, he's the president of the Temecula Valley Unified School District Board of Education, fired back at Newsom's claims, insisting that the board did not ban the book, but instead chose not to adopt the new state-recommended material. Quote, "It is unfortunate that Governor Newsom and others haven't seized upon actions by the Temecula Valley Unified School District, expressly authorized by the California legislature, and mischaracterized not only what has occurred, but why," he said. He reiterated that he did not speak on behalf of the entire board. And this from North Carolina, an important Pfizer pharmaceutical plant in that state was severely damaged on Wednesday. This after a powerful tornado ripped through the area, threatening production lines that normally provide huge amounts of medicine to U.S. hospitals. Meanwhile, torrential rain flooded parts of Kentucky and communities from California to South Florida that are now enduring scorching heat, at times reaching record high temperatures.